Okay.
You should be all set.
Great.
Thanks.
I make a motion to open the meeting of the Sanitation Commission.
I second that motion.
Great. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Can we agree that the agenda today is to review the draft resolution language so that we can come up with agreed upon language to move forward?
Yes. Well, we can.
Agenda.
Today's agenda is to discuss the draft resolution from the perspective of making sure that this resolution
Reflects.
has a mechanism for making sure that the commission and the service of garbage collection can continue. I don't know that we can alter a resolution that still has to go back to the two boards for approval. I mean, we can edit it for sure, but we can't say that it's going to be the final version. It's going back.
Correct, but
Okay.
we're working on editing.
We're working on hopefully getting it to the place where
Right.
the minor issues at the last minute can be worked out in appropriate language. That's all. So
Okay.
I can throw up the last
Throw
draft
up.
version from no, to put up on the screen. Sorry, bad wording. Put up on the screen the last version circulated by Jim Stout, Commission Attorney. If you want to start there, and then should we have something that we're looking at that we're working on?
Sure.
Now I'm just trying to find my, there we go. I haven't been on Zoom for a while. Isn't that lovely?
Can't imagine what that's like.
Feels really good. Actually. So this is, let me just scroll down. This is the last version that Jim circulated to the commission, which had the change of the date to September 1. So let's start there. I think that was the section that we had, that there were questions about, that we wanted to discuss.
Yeah, I think that we got to, that we did, all the whereases were acceptable to everyone.
Mm-hmm.
So I can say that when we discussed it in the town board, there was interest in having the arrangement of the 5941 payment allocation for funding exists for the calendar and fiscal year for the town 2022, but that there be some language that would point to the fact that we were obviously working toward figuring out the ongoing arrangement after that. And if that hadn't been agreed to by a certain date, that that there was then not an arrangement going forward. You know, that you couldn't say what the future of the commission was going to be, or of the
let me just make sure I'm understanding you correctly. Are you saying that the town board was okay with this resolution as far as 2022, but if by the end of 2022 we had not come to some other resolution, they wanted to not have the terms of this resolution continue? Is that what you're saying?
Almost what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, in addition to that, it wasn't by the end of 2022. It had to be before that. It had to be, September 1st.
So let me ask you then, let's say by September 1st, 2022, we haven't finalized in a new arrangement? What are they proposing happens?
They're proposing that then it's decided how to move forward, that this arrangement would not automatically continue at that time.
So if we read number 3 carefully, we see that this arrangement does not automatically continue. It says that it can continue, or either party can cancel it, and then we come to a new agreement.
Right, but to do that on September 1 is way too late in the year. If, and I'm hoping I'm using the right wording, if in the unlikely event this came to pass and one or the other triggers the 60-day notice, both communities are in a jam, because if the decision is not to go forward with the extended district or not to go forward with something else, then the only alternative is for the two communities to separate. That doesn't leave, you're in the middle of a budget year. The town is just starting its budget. It might barely pull it off. The other thing that you want to keep in mind is that the process for the extended district has a fairly lengthy timeline attached to it. So the plan will get done this week. You'll get it. The town board has to formally authorize the preparation of the plan, and they're going to do that tomorrow night. But it's basically all done. I'm just putting some of the financing pieces together. That's
Right.
going to go to the village. You're going to decide if you want to continue. You're going to hold a public hearing. So you have to set the hearing.
I think you're, we asked you to prepare the
Yep.
paperwork for the plan so that we could see what that would look like. But I'm not so sure that we're going to power through in a short time frame the rest of your scenario, because as you well know, I still don't have any consensus on the extended district. And that's, we want to work, as it says in here, work towards a mutually agreeable arrangement, right? And we want to do so that we can have something ready for January 2023. That's everyone's intention. But the reality says, given the timeframes for all these things, we may not be ready. So there should be a mechanism in this resolution that allows for, extra time, a continuation, in order to protect the functioning of the service. So I understand that I see now that the way this last sentence is written, we changed September 1, but the 60 days is still an issue.
Right.
So maybe that's the part of this that needs to be tweaked. And I'm going to turn to the attorney to see if he has a suggestion for solving the problem that Steve and Nancy have rightly pointed out.
So it sounds like what you're saying is that if this is going to get canceled, 60 days notice, it might be, let's see, December. You want to make it, it sounds like you want to make it a longer period of time, so there's longer lead time?
Or just back up to September 1. I think what we're really saying is just back up to September 1.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say, maybe May or June.
Uh-huh.
Oh, that's a way back up.
Well,
So you're saying if by May or June we haven't come to a new arrangement, we're gonna do a revised arrangement for 2023 of this resolution?
That's what my town board is thinking, yes. That they want to know whether this is going to have been settled out by, I would say, June of 2022. And if not, then there has to be a revisiting of this arrangement, a decision whether to move forward in 23 with this arrangement or to do differently. Because they recognize what the lead time is for trying to go into the expanded district. And if there isn't enormous headway made in that direction up to that point, then it isn't going to happen. And so we need to, review and determine how to move forward again. And it's, in an effort to be able to prepare for.
I understand, Nancy, but it seems if this resolution rolled over one extra year, it's really, it's no muss, no fuss. Whereas trying to get something accomplished by June 1 and get everybody to agree, and then saying, well, if we don't have what the town wants by June 1, because of the time frame that would then take, we have to kind of blow the whole thing up and agree again to something for the next year, which is going to be tough if we haven't been able to agree.
If we can't agree which is, the beginning of October, with a plan that we're going to get this week, by June 1, then we don't have an agreement. We don't have a way forward. And it, at least to them, and I would agree that we should be able to have some agreement by then. And if not, then we can say, okay, we need another year, or, where we should do differently.
What we're saying, yeah, go ahead.
Lorraine, if the decision by June is that everybody agrees to extend the district, there's a lot of time needed. You have to think of the transition for the plan, the
I'm understanding. I understand that, and it's fine to have, for us to be aware of the deadline for a particular choice, but you're crafting a resolution around whether or not the village agrees to the particular choice that the town wants. And I think we should look at this resolution more broadly. This allows for the continuation of the operation of the commission into next year, and then there's a mechanism to renew it for another year, and both parties have to agree in case we haven't come to that or any resolution, not necessarily meaning that we're not eventually going to come to an arrangement that we think is
the town board is saying, let's make that determination on June 1 then. So, because
I think we're creating a situation that is going to be more antagonistic than is necessary. I'm just being honest with you.
Because of the time frame? I mean, there was the understanding on the town board side that many people felt that the expanded district would be, a benefit to all, and that, in looking at the plan and going there, but so I guess I don't see it as antagonistic as, going through the process of figuring this out. If it decides it's not the way to go, and then there's discussions about then how should we move forward.
If on June 1, everybody decides, you're right, Lorraine, it is targeted to one alternative, but you have to understand that if on June 1, everybody says kumbaya and we agree on the extended district, the town government is going to need an extended period of time to make all of that happen. There is the transitional period, the budget changes, the manpower being transitioned. There'll be the discussion about the transfer of assets. And just think how long it's taken us to discuss some of these other issues, so that when June 1 comes, I don't want to put words in Nancy's mouth. I don't think what Nancy's saying is if on June 1 we haven't made a decision, the whole thing blows up. It's a possibility that the whole thing blows up, but certainly the two boards could also decide mutually that they both still aren't on the same page, and the commission will run. You'd have to decide that the commission will run for all of calendar 23, because there's no way to do this in midstream, and we discovered that this year. Just the public hearing process, the review by the state controller, all the transitional pieces. It's just, let's say it's almost impossible. I think that's the advantage of June 1. I don't think it's a blow-up date. I think it's just an early enough date to say, hey, are the two communities generally going in the right direction? Is there another alternative that you want to consider? I guess that's possible too. But that if June 1, the decision is this is the way to go, then it's a smooth transition. In the alternative, it's just all hurried.
Also, I would say that that's correct. That is correct, Steve. But I also would say that in the town board, in our discussion, the idea was to start working post haste on a mutually agreed upon scenario going forward. So starting that effort now.
We do need to start that effort, but what we don't have is a mutually agreed upon. we have a mutually agreed upon effort. We don't have a mutually agreed upon path. And you should remember that from the joint meeting. I don't think that you could walk away from that meeting thinking that my board was, 90% gung ho, let's do an expanded district. Far from it. We said that we would, do analysis of the financials and everything else, which fortunately, anyway, I won't go into that. We'll have that done. But
yeah, we got that impression, believe me.
Right.
But
right.
it also seemed like there was going to be
exactly.
some other there's possible other thinking on the board with new members on the board, and that we, in the process of analyzing it and evaluating it, maybe others would think it wasn't such a bad idea.
No, true. Which is why we asked Steve to move ahead with drafting the plan so that everyone could get a sense of what it really would mean.
I mean, remember, your directive was to draft the plan for an extended district. I didn't, the only other alternative I'm aware, short of the commission arrangement as it exists now, is either an amended commission arrangement or what's called an Article 5G shared service arrangement. So right now we are going down one path, so to speak, which would be the extended district.
Well, we asked you to prepare the plan so that we could, so that we had some movement in that direction should we decide to go that way, right? Because it takes a while, and also so that everybody could see what it means. What is a plan? What does the plan look like? What's in it? What does this really mean? Because we've been talking a lot in the abstract, but that doesn't mean that conversation of other potential arrangements were off the table. That's where I'm coming in with thinking we need to be careful how we phrase this last section, because I don't think we want to set ourselves up to both be trying to figure out a new arrangement for the long term and trying to work out a new short-term agreement for the following year if we hadn't come to an agreement by June 1st.
Okay, well, like the town board felt and requested that there be a determination at June 1st or,
Okay, this is the first I'm hearing of June 1st. You know, it was September 1, then it's,
Yeah.
you know, 60 days. Now it's June 1st.
well,
It's a simple resolution. I thought we could, you know, get this done and then move ahead with the important matters.
yeah, I did too, but you got 10 people who, you know, get to weigh in every 2 weeks and
Right.
they, you know, give us their opinions.
Okay,
So that's where they came out on,
do you think this is the final, a change of opinion that we're going to receive on this resolution from the town board? Because
I think so. I
the
can't,
village board gave no edits from the, you know, and we made the change that you first requested, which was
Right.
September 1, so.
so yeah, I think this is it. This is what we discussed at the last meeting. It was the first time we were discussing the specific language, and it was talked through. So yes, they would like to have by June 1 to figure out which direction, if we're going in that direction of the expanded district, and if not, to be able to say,
I would say that at the best, we could change the date upon which action needs to be taken to either, you know, extend the current agreement or put a new one in place. I'm not having any language in here that discusses a particular outcome by
oh, no,
June
no,
1st.
I agree. No, that we were talking about the effort
Yeah,
in terms of that direction.
Right,
But no, I don't, no one wanted to put, no, there was no suggestion of putting that specific scenario in here. It was simply trying to figure out the date by which we need to determine, you know, make a determination which way we're going and how to address the next year if there isn't an agreement by that time.
mhm. So Jim, I mean,
you can just change the September date to June if you choose. The cancellation, and just to be sure we're on the same, the cancellation could occur in June. It just can't be effective until December 31st. So if, under the way it's written, if for example, the town decided in June, you know what, we're going to cancel this. You could do it in June. It just won't be effective. You don't have to wait for 60 days before December 31st to say we're canceling the current arrangement. Under this language, you could do it anytime. But it sounds like what you're talking about now is just taking that September date, which is the target for an alternate agreement to what this resolution says, which currently one of the options is a district. It sounds like you're talking about changing that date to June, which if the parties want to do it, they certainly can do it.
Jim, it seems that if the date, hold on now, let's just look at that. So we're saying if it said, if the town and village have not agreed upon an alternate arrangement by June 1st, which would be implemented January 1st, 2023. The funding contributions provided in paragraph 1 shall continue until a new arrangement is agreed upon and implemented, provided, however, either party may cancel this arrangement effective anytime after the end of the year by 60 days written notice to the other party, in which case the parties will put in place. Okay, so
for example,
basically we're saying that by June 1st, if we don't have something in an alternate arrangement settled on, or at least we all have agreed this is what we're doing, then this arrangement continues. The last part, if one party or the other doesn't want to continue with this arrangement, but wants to negotiate something different, then they can let the other party know.
Why don't we add it? I mean, look, I apologize that I keep thinking about the worst case scenario, but it's a serious issue because we're talking about garbage collection.
Right.
So on December 31, one or the other says, no, I want to cancel this arrangement. We don't like it. And the other party doesn't agree, and you have nothing.
But
What happens?
it's not on December 31 because you have to give 60 days notice. So it's October 31. So like I said, we could change those to
No, but this allows you to give 60 days notice anytime, it sounds like.
So we could
no,
do,
go ahead.
I mean, you could do both. You could put the target date in as June, and you could extend the notice time to be 90 days or 120 days or however much length you want to give it. I think what Steve is saying is no scenario is good for a cancellation without an alternate arrangement, but if it should happen, more notice would be good.
But let me understand. I hope I'm reading this correctly. This arrangement is in place for the whole fiscal year of 2022. Neither of us can back out for 2022.
That is correct.
Okay.
At least
Then
that's
additionally, if we come to the point where we haven't come to an agreement on something new, and as it's written here, by September 1st, this rolls over for another year.
Right. And I did it that way because
and then let me just keep walking my way through this, Jim, and then you can tell me where I'm right or wrong. And then if one of us is not happy about this rolling over the way it is, we can notify the other party 60 days before December 31st or more, but no less than 60 days, and say, we don't want to just roll this over. We want to make a change to the agreement.
And that's
and that agreement would kick in on January 1, 2023. And if you're saying, Steve, that October 31st is too late.
That's what I'm saying.
Okay. So
I mean, it's impossible for us. It's virtually impossible for the village. I mean, the town could, it would be a horrible transition, but it could happen. What happens to the village? Again, I don't think everyone's saying, I think June 1 is a date in which everybody can take a breath and say, okay, where are we? Are we close? Are we not close? Is the extended district no longer under consideration? Let's talk about 5G. Let's talk about an amended commission legislation. All of those things take time to study. And all I'm saying is back it up so that if the parties may agree on June 1 saying, oh, all right, we still want to study both parties may say we still want to study the extended district, but we'd also like to study this. But we agree, we want to keep the shared service and we want to keep going. Then the amended resolution just says, hey, we keep going. But I think there needs to be an earlier break point so that, or the break point's the wrong word, an earlier date in which the two communities can say, yeah, we're going in the right direction, or no, let's study this as well. And then they may very well, Lorraine, say, yes, let's continue this through 2023, the current arrangement. But I think what the town board is saying is, let's move this along. The plan, I think you'll find the plan pretty easy to understand. And I think if in 6 months, I don't think you need more than 3 months, but.
Steve, do you agree? I don't think it's the plan itself. I think it's the effect. There's a lot more to it than the plan on our side. Yeah. So do you think though that it's important to have, even if we change the dates, some type of automatic rollover for another year? Because if you say we can't come to an arrangement by June 1st, but then we have to take our eyes off the ball and come to some interim agreement that's gonna be tricky. That's double work. So you guys are not suggesting that the rollover provision be taken out, just that we change the timing of when it's triggered and the timing of the cancellation notice should either side want to make another arrangement. And the other arrangement is, as it's worded in here, is not I'm taking my marbles and going home. It's we're going to have a revised interim arrangement.
Town board did not want to have a rollover, an automatic rollover.
No rollover of any kind. So you're saying that if by June 1st, we don't have an expanded district agreement, then we have to go into negotiations for the following year's interim arrangement before we can go back and figure out what it is that we're going to do long-term.
Yes.
That's the situation you just set up.
Yes, and that because the thinking was that by June 1st, we will have an indication of what direction we're going in for an alternate arrangement. And if we don't by then the town board wanted to review it and think about then how do we move forward? Because they definitely felt that within 7 months, we should be able to have some idea of how we're going to move forward.
So I'll say there's two ways you can achieve that goal in this resolution.
That seems very risky to me. If you're talking about making sure that we can continue the provision of this service, that to me, that seems like the worst option. Honestly. Like I said, that sets up what I think is an unnecessarily confrontational situation.
The town board feels that there's not going to be any progress unless we, put it in those kind of terms. We're not going to move forward on how to do it if there's an automatic rollover of the current situation.
With the option for, okay, that's why there's an option for cancellation, which requires another interim arrangement, but there's two ways to go with it. So if everything's going okay, we can just say, we're making good progress. We need more time. Let's just roll it. But it also has the opportunity, if one party or the other is dissatisfied with the progress, say, we're giving written notice. We don't want to roll over. We want to come to some new arrangement. Instead of forcing us to come to some new interim arrangement, by taking out the rollover.
The town board wants to force us to come to a new arrangement.
Great. Okay.
That's what they were thinking, that there's got to be.
Well, you know what? This whole conversation is starting off very adversarially. Can't get the word out. It's not, we're two equal partners in this. I mean, we're both trying to figure out how to provide this service in a better way.
But Lorraine, they're looking at it like, what if we can't figure out in 7 months whether we want to move forward with a new arrangement, then we might not ever be able to figure it out. If there is good faith effort in moving forward and everyone is trying to figure out an alternative or a new structure for the commission, then the town board is going to say, yes, of course we want to keep going forward and move forward. No one wants to halt the service, that's for sure. We recognize we can't. We didn't think the 60-day notice mechanism was realistic in terms of keeping the service going.
Right. Well, we just discussed that 60 days is too short a time. It doesn't work, but you're
yes, you're right.
This way.
Basically,
the town wants this last paragraph to say, if we don't have an alternate arrangement agreed by June 1st, period, end of sentence. That's it. There's nothing set up. We have no way forward.
Well,
then we
no,
had-
the
then we
town,
had-
but
I
It
mean, what
doesn't-
happens for the next year? What happens for the next
but we
year?
evaluate where we are, and we say we're either headed in this direction or we're headed in that direction, or we need to continue. They don't want an automatic renewal. You're right. They want to be able to analyze where they are at that point in a very stark fashion and say, we've either got to continue the way we've gone for the next year, or we are headed in a certain direction. That's it. It's a very blunt and stark review at June 1. But it's not to say, okay, we're done, we're finished, it didn't happen, it didn't work. It's to determine then at June 1 which direction we go in. And I guess I'm getting from you that you think it's going to take several years to actually come up with.
No, Nancy, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to play out the what if scenarios and make sure that there is a mechanism in place for the continuation of the commission's service. I'm trying to remove it from the two boards and their situation, and they're coming to an agreement. I'm trying to make sure that, like, whatever we do here, we manage to be sure that we don't come to an agreement, that we at least don't turn around and realize we didn't provide for the continuation of the services, because I don't know what the alternate is. If we can't come to an arrangement by June 1st, and I can, and hopefully the conversations go well, and hopefully they don't get as heated as they got at the last meeting, or as insulting. But I'm just trying to be a realist. Just trying to be a realist. If that's,
I don't have the sense that the town board thinks they're going to abandon the garbage service, or the commission for that matter, at that time, but they want to have an indication. They want to be able to decide whether it is going to be, a different direction than the current commission that we have, or decide whether to move forward as a commission. They want to be forced to make that decision, to look at where we are and proactively decide. I don't see why they wouldn't, if there was headway being made toward figuring out a better structure and configuration for the commission, why they would not want to move in that direction.
I'll just throw in that I think there are two ways to do what you're talking about. One is to just say there will be no rollover. The other is to push the notice date back to 7 months, or June 1st. In that case, the town would have the option that it wants to preserve, which, if something isn't agreed to by June 1st, it could say there's no arrangement. Or there has to be another one. On the other hand, if there's progress being made, they can just leave it alone and let it roll over. They always can cancel on 7 months notice. So it's just a question of whether, it can just be a question of whether, either way, it can end in June, or it can be said in June to end in 7 months. You can, by pushing the notice back, you achieve that goal, but you still leave a fail-safe in there of a rollover. Or, as you say, you can just take out the rollover and then it, let it ends.
I have to say, I know that you're framing it in an antagonistic way, but I don't think there is antagonism on our side at all, other than the desire to push the process so that we can come up with a renewed structure in a time frame that allows us all to make sure it happens.
And whatever that structure is, that there's enough time to implement it. And that's the concern I have operationally, is having the time to implement whatever it is that you all decide to do.
And the other problem obviously is that, when you and I talked about the previous resolution, and there was, the town board didn't, get to see it until our last meeting. So, again, this is my understanding of what they really wanted.
Right.
Tomorrow night is our next time together.
Well, here's the problem that we've had all along. There are only two parties to this arrangement. And now you've given me the town's opinion, and I can guarantee the village's opinion is different. And there's no, where do we go from here? Once again,
So you think the village is, let me make sure I understand.
I think they're going to be, I think they're not going to be happy, but I don't want to prejudge. I would just expect that there will be some people who will feel that the town is trying to move in a certain direction that we have not yet agreed upon. That's all. And maybe this illustrates to them a lack of openness to discuss and look at as deeply as we'd have to various options. I'm telling you that that's where I think some people will be. But now all I can do is take this back. So if
can I ask you though, in terms of the certain direction, I think we've been clear that, an expanded district seemed like something to explore, and we thought that it could be a benefit to the whole system. And both you and I have outlined those benefits.
Right.
Is there another direction that they have in mind or want explored, or they don't know?
I'm sure that they want to explore altering the structure of the commission.
Mm-hmm. So Steve, how could we accomplish both directions so that, in the 7 months time, we could look at the benefits?
I guess without knowing what the village board wants to study, it's hard to answer that question, but let me try and anticipate a little and speculate. If we have made the joint decision that we're moving away from the tonnage apportionment and going to the ad valorem tax, then there are really two alternatives, which is to say that to amend the commission's legislative language to remove the tonnage apportionment, to put in the fixed apportionment, and then each community is going to raise the money but through the ad valorem tax. I know I'm completely oversimplifying that, but that's basically where we would go. And now you have to go back to the state legislature to amend the language of the commission. We remove the whole incinerator thing, and we say it's a joint sanitation operation, not all that unlike the sanitation districts out in Long Island. The other alternative is what's called an Article 5G, which would again result in the dissolution of the commission, and then you create this Article 5G. It's essentially a long-term agreement between the town and the village for sanitation collection, and it would outline, very much what you'll see in the plan, but and then the third alternative is the extended district. I mean, we could try and go down those two roads while you're all looking at the expanded district plan. I mean, that's how I would see it. Whether we could do that in 6 months, yeah, probably. I have to think about it a little bit, but I still think, Lorraine, we need something sooner than September 1 to say, are we getting close to something? Because we have two budgets that don't match in terms of the fiscal years, and that's problematic. And I do think if the village board says, yes, okay, with everything you've put in the plan, the advisory board, the way it would be arranged, the extended district is acceptable, then the town needs that much time to finish the process. Again, you also have to decide, if you like the extended district, when are you going to hold the public hearings? Again, each public hearing is subject to permissive referendum. So you need 30 days after each resolution is adopted. And I have it also attached would be the timeline. So there's the public hearing, the permissive referendum time, and then final decision, and then the transition. There are only so many magic wands in the barrel right now, and so you would need easily 4 to 6 months to make the transition.
I feel like I am happy to explore other configurations and structures for the commission. We're not wedded to the expanded district as much as in the preliminary explorations and discussions we've had. It seems like a beneficial way to go.
It resolved the issue of the transcending the municipal boundaries and the limitations that imposes. I think when you see the plan, it is an interesting alternative. Not to say you can't accomplish it with the other alternatives I've spoken of.
I mean, technically, we can accomplish it even just this next year with this interim agreement, since we're not weighing trash.
Right.
Our boundaries don't really matter anymore. But I want to just look at this last section. It would seem that if we're not having an automatic rollover, then this entire thing comes out. And then we would have the ability to put in place a revised agreement at June 1st.
Or an agreed upon date thereafter, I would think. But,
and we don't need a cancellation date because there's no rollover.
Right, there's no, right.
And the alternative is just to make the cancellation date 7 months, which is June 1st, or any time thereafter on 7 months' notice. And then there would be a rollover, but the either party would have, somebody could say on June 1st, we're done.
Or
Those are
Or
the
not necessarily we're done, but we don't want to roll over this agreement. We want to revise a
Right.
new agreement, which
Right.
is basically gets to the same resolution, because in effect, there's not an automatic rollover because you have the ability to cancel it and require a revision.
It just
But it
needs,
does at least allow for the idea that we can just roll it over. We don't have, if everything's going fine, but we need more time, we
And
don't have
everyone's
to go
gonna say,
through the
right.
process. We can just say, okay, we're just going to let it roll.
yeah, it puts you in a position where if you're going along fine, you can just let it go and keep talking.
Right.
If you take that and make it 7 months, rather than take it all out. If you take it all out, then you have to stop, to stop it. You have to now also do something interim. So that's really it. You can get
Right,
to the
that's-
same substantive result. It's just a question of whether of which way you do it.
Right. And like, I feel that requiring that at June 1st, we stop and assess and then come to some new interim arrangement if we're not ready yet, just adds a little extra anxiety to the process. When we could just roll it, but also have the ability for either one of us to say, we don't want to roll it, we want to revise it, if things are really, not working well.
I can just say that the town board did not like the idea of the rollover. They wanted the stop, hard look. How are we going to move forward?
I'm just throwing out there to you, Nancy, what happens if by June 1st, we haven't gotten to a copacetic moment of where we're going?
Mm-hmm. But I think that we're going to have, I think if we're starting the process now of reviewing the options, we're going to be in the momentum of, trying to figure it out. If we have agreed upon it, they'll have to move forward.
I'm sorry to be late to the party a little bit here, but, and maybe you've
Meredith,
already.
hold on, Meredith, I actually texted you, I'm sorry to say, to ask you to say that Justin wasn't joining us, so we decided not to have the administrators and managers join us for the meeting.
Okay,
I'm sorry.
okay.
But
I'll head out.
Sorry, Meredith, I thought you were not attending, so
That's okay.
I canceled Justin. We should
All
either
right.
have both or neither.
yeah, I agree.
Okay.
So sorry.
I'll catch
but we'll
up with-
talk later.
Okay, I'll catch up later.
Okay.
Bye.
Thanks.
Well, there's nothing left to discuss, I think. You've told me what the town wants, and I'll go and tell the village what the town said.
So Lorraine, what
But, like I said, there's two parties here, and one of them is not, in charge of driving the direction. So we're gonna have to find a compromise.
I agree. There's two parties and each side has to work, has to be willing to work together to get to a place that both feel comfortable with the structure of the service. And, obviously we aren't there yet and we've been struggling the whole year and a half with it. But tell me what your timing is with being able to talk with your board.
Oh, too bad I had a work session last night. Hold on. Let me see when my next.
Also, are you guys meeting in person? I just want to ask.
Yeah. Mhm. Monday, the 18th, we have a work session and a board meeting. That's our next scheduled meeting.
Mhm.
And we tried to schedule a meeting for next week and we failed. We're hosting the WMOA
Yes, I know.
dinner on Thursday, which we're very excited about. We hope that the town comes and supports us and
Yeah, I'm
a
definitely
nice
planning
meal
on
at the
coming.
yacht club. So yeah, and with the holiday on Monday and the WMOA dinner on Thursday night, we're wrapped up. So the 18th would be the
Okay, so our next board meeting is October 20th, which means that you and I should talk on October 19th.
this very special day, October 19th.
Is that your birthday?
It is, yes.
Oh,
But we
sorry.
can still talk.
You have to get her a cupcake, Nancy.
We
You
can
gotta get
still
her-
talk.
Okay,
A cupcake always helps.
there you go.
Or should,
Yeah,
do we
no,
have to?
I mean, I'll let you know what the outcome of that discussion is.
Okay, do we need to actually have a sanitation meeting for that? Should we schedule a meeting to discuss? that?
I suppose,
Before you go that far, are we clear what it is we're discussing? It's really taking Jim's resolution.
I think what you're discussing is taking
Well, before you just.
all of that off.
No, I don't think
No?
so. I think you're changing September 1 to June 1.
But September 1 is only in there because it allows for this funding arrangement to continue. And
Well,
and I've been told now several times that the town board does not want any type of rollover option at all, which means we take the rollover out and we take the cancellation out.
No, but
And
the first,
this arrangement is in effect for the calendar year 2022. And the deadline of June 1 has no relationship to this resolution. I mean, June 1 is June 1. If June 1 is the day by which you guys say we've got to do something, I mean, what?
I kind of think you're blowing up the whole thing when I think that this June 1 is a date for the town and the village to say, where are we? Where are we right now? Are we in a place that we like with the extended district? No, we want to study.
But okay, go ahead.
Alternatives. It's a time. I think you need I'm lost for the word, and I apologize for that. I think June 1 is it's the middle of the year. You'll have had this plan for almost 8 months. And it's a time to say we're moving or we're not moving. Now you may say that well before June 1. You may say that in April. But I do think you need a date to evaluate where you are. And I think if it is forced upon the two boards, it makes the two boards work and decide what it is that's going to be done.
We can put, then I would say that still this comes out and you can reference June 1 as you said, a review date by which the two parties will discuss the status and if necessary, make arrangements for the following year. If necessary, make a revised interim arrangement for the next year.
Why don't say something to the effect of by June 1, the two communities, the town and the village, will evaluate the status of the review. I'm kind of really winging it here.
Yeah.
Again, you could decide in April to meet. You could decide in May to meet.
Mm-hmm.
But make that June 1 date a date that by that date, something's going to happen.
But by June 1, what happens? That's the question. That's what I keep coming back to. So by June 1, so I understand the need for having a date by which we have like a status check. We're like,
Right.
where are we? Where are we going? And then maybe we're in a place where we've made a decision and we're just gonna,
Right.
we know we can have it done by the end of the year. Maybe
Right, so-
something else has come up. But this resolution is not dealing with what the outcome of our,
Correct.
let's call it our review.
Correct. This resolution is simply
this
talking about this calendar coming up, this calendar.
And it should have some way for us to take care of the next year, should the next year need to be taken care of. I mean, some
Yeah.
type of language. Because if there's no language in here at all that talks about what we'll do for the following year, if we're still in conversation and study, then I don't know where we go. Like I said, I don't know where we go, because we're certainly not going back to
Well, let's have
the old
say
way.
that by June 1, though, you're going to be able to, each board is going to look at each other and say, we're headed in this direction A, we're headed in direction B. We don't have a direction yet. Let's continue this arrangement for the following year, because it doesn't look like we're going to get there in time to be able to change something.
Mhm.
That's
So-
the decision.
Right,
then.
so what I'm suggesting then is that language is put into the resolution. That's where I was going. If by June 1, the two boards by June 1 need to have a conversation about the direction they're headed, and will they have something in place by the end of the year, or do they need to either roll over this arrangement or create a revision to an interim arrangement? There's got to be something beyond
Okay.
by
I
June
hear what you're
1st,
saying.
something happens. We need to
Right,
know, like,
so-
well, what's the something?
Okay.
What if you say that something to the effect of no later than June 1, 2022, the town and the village will meet to evaluate the alternatives under consideration, determine what, if any, I can't do this on the fly, I'm sorry. Something to the effect of what, if any, alternate arrangement has been decided upon. And if there has not been an alternative arrangement, decide upon how long to continue the current arrangement. Now, I'm going to let Jim put that in real language, and not Steve
How
else here.
about that we have some statement of the future direction of the service, of the commission?
Right.
What does that mean, Nancy?
That we, together agree on what the direction is, that we are working toward A, we're working toward B, we're still working on everything. We foresee continuing this arrangement for 2023, having some statement of direction as of that.
What if you allowed Jim and I to fool around with this for a little bit and send language off to the two of you? I mean, unless we could try to do it now, but I think that's what June 1 is. Okay, everybody, where are we at? Do we have an alternative that we can agree upon? If yes, then we decide that January 1, 2023, this will be the arrangement. If no, are we going to continue? We'll continue January 1, 2023, the current arrangement, because you don't need to change anything for 2022. Everything's fixed for 2022. The real decision is, what are you going to do on January 1, 2023? That's what we're trying to fix or resolve. So think of it like a flow chart. What do we do?
Well, we don't have the answer to that now. I think what we're saying is that we look at ourselves in the mirror and each other and we say, we determine how to move.
I'm not doing any mirror looking, Nancy, sorry. But I think basically if we just, here's what we have. If we change September 1 to June 1, and if we changed the 60 days to whatever brings us back to June 1, we pretty much have that. But now change the wording so that it's not an automatic rollover, but that there has to be a conversation and a review. And then we can either say we've got a direction, we're good for January. We've sort of got a direction, but we're not good for January, so we're going to roll it over. Or we're got a direction, or maybe have a direction, we're not really sure, and we're certainly not ready for January, and we want to make a revision to an interim arrangement for January. Those are the three scenarios. I mean, I think we all just pretty much said the same thing. But again, this is the version that my board has been, I've distributed this to them. But we haven't, hang on. Ignore that. It's ringing.
I thought it was my phone.
That's my phone, it's my phone. Yeah, so,
why don't we try and hammer out the language, at least so that you can distribute it and we can get it distributed.
yeah, I'm uncomfortable having nothing other than by June 1st, we'll have a conversation.
Okay.
I think that there should be some paths laid out in case we haven't come to an agreement, that we know how we'll handle the next year. Even if it's not a rollover, it's the potential for a rollover or a new interim arrangement. We should address that. I mean, I don't think it's I'm not speaking as the village mayor here. I'm speaking as sanitation commissioner. I don't think it's prudent to set up a resolution that says by this date, you know, we'll decide if we have some sort of direction without planning for the what if we don't.
So if you change the September 1 day to June 1, the funding contribution provided in paragraph 1 shall continue until a new agreement is agreed upon and implemented, provided, however, it's that last sentence that maybe we'd have to play around with.
Why
Right.
can't we say that we'll make a decision how to proceed for 2023 at June 1? Can we do that?
Well, do you make it at June 1, Nancy, or do you give, if June 1's where you figure out you haven't got a final arrangement, do you give yourself at least, you know, do you make it July 1 so you have a few weeks or whatever to, of course you can do it.
I'm thinking that we say we have to make a decision regarding the fiscal year, calendar year 2023 by June 1.
So we not only have to try to work towards a new arrangement and come to the point where we know we've decided what we're going to do something and we're in agreement, but we also have to know what we're going to do for the next year. If
Presumably,
we've
though,
agreed to
Lorraine,
something,
if we don't have an agreement and a direction and we're not sure which way to go, or then, you know, the default is going to have to be to continue the current arrangement.
except that when it doesn't say that that's an option, then you're opening up the door for, it's like a double negotiation. Like, why are we adding additional? I just thought that there's an option to roll it over and there's an option to cancel it and revise it. That gives free rein.
But maybe it should say cancel it and develop an alternate interim arrangement, rather than just say cancel. That, there is you're sort of pushing them through this resolution to say, well, all right, we don't have an alternate arrangement. We don't want to blow this thing up. What should we do? Should we just continue what we're doing through 2023? Something to that effect.
Right,
So
but it's, it says, in which case the parties will put in place by agreement a revised interim arrangement. I mean, that's what it says. That's why I just feel like, I think, I get the sense that only one sentence out of this paragraph was actually read and focused on.
alternate arrangement,
Taking all the dates and out of this section, it basically says that if we haven't come to an agreement, we can either roll this over, or either party can say we don't want to roll this over, in other words, cancel it, but we have to put in place a new agreement of a revision on how we're going to deal with the following year. That's what this says. I understand, like, the need to set a date, and it's good to set deadlines because it does act as an impetus, but it sounds like this says if we have not agreed on an alternate arrangement by September 1, which would be implemented the following year, then we'll either roll this over or we'll amend it, we'll revise it, if we don't both agree to roll it over.
Problem is, if you have an agreement by September 1, you likely can't implement it.
Steve, I said ignore. Hold on. I said ignore the dates that are in here right now. Right? The dates are irrelevant right now. What we're talking about is there's a mechanism already in here that if we don't agree to an alternate arrangement, it'll either roll. This one will either roll over for another year, or if both parties don't want to roll it, we revise it for the next year. That's what this says. We can change the dates and the time frame so that it works with the realities of the town and the commission's, budgetary fiscal year and all the other stuff that would have to get done. But basically, we're saying if I just think we're leaving ourselves hanging, like just hanging. Like, if we're going to review where we're at June 1st, then what?
I don't think it's hanging. I mean, we've been doing this process for a year and a half of reviewing and trying to come to new arrangements.
Well, I wouldn't quite. Yep. I don't think it's. Go ahead.
I don't think.
I think that's an overstatement of the effort that we've has gone into this for the last year and a half. We've only had one joint meeting.
But I don't think that. I think everyone realizes we can't not pick up the garbage.
Yes.
And that wouldn't be anyone's intention, and never has been. But it is a struggle to figure out what is the best structure for the service.
I mean, if I
want to study it in earnest, and it seems to me that we should be able to make some headway.
I agree. We should be able to make some headway, and we should attack this and get to a place where we at least have some sense of what's in and what's out and where we're going. And maybe even to some agreement. And that would be wonderful. I'm looking at the other side of the coin, which is we don't quite figure out where we need to go, and we haven't come to an agreement.
But drill down a little bit. Let me interrupt a little, Lorraine, if you don't mind. If you drill down, the issues are, one of the issues is, does the village want to allow the transition of the operation into the town government, but knowing that there would be input by the village vis-a-vis the advisory board? Or do you come to the conclusion that you want there to be, quote, commissioners? I don't know what we'd call them in an Article 5G. Do you want there to be, you want a seat at the actual table to determine the final budget, to have governance over the service? That's really the issue. I mean, we know how to do it. We know what the advantages are of the expanded district. If you leave a separate agency in place, there are still certain advantages. I think though, when these small organizations, I think it gets harder for the small organizations to operate. That's really what we're down to. I mean, it's not that we're going to transition and stop picking up garbage, stop picking up garbage twice a week, or we're not changing the operation. It's really a decision of where the final governance of the operation is going to lie and what the village is or is not comfortable with. And the question is, can't we just try and resolve that in 7 months? And by putting the June 1 date in there, just a little bit of push in everybody's back to say, let's see if we can't figure it out. And not to say you wouldn't continue if you can't, but I think that's really the big issue.
I agree with you. Those are pretty much, those are the issues. And like I said, I think setting a deadline by which, that we shoot for, which is an impetus to action and attention, is a good thing. So I don't have any, my issue is not with the date of June 1st. My issue is, here's an arrangement. This is a resolution to fund an operation, right? This is not a resolution to come to an arrangement for some other operation. This is just a resolution to fund an operation. So my thinking is there should be something written into here about what happens if by June 1st, we don't have a new arrangement that will take place for January 1. What if we're not there yet? The way this is written here, again, dates aside, if we don't have a new arrangement in place for the next January, it either rolls over or one of us says we don't want it to roll over, in which case we revise and have a new interim arrangement. I mean, I think that's basically what's been laid out anyway, because there's got to be some way that we're going to fund this thing the next year if we don't come to an agreement by June 1st. We don't realize we're not there yet. We're going to need to fund it for the next year.
Why can't we decide that on June 1st? I mean, here we are, it's October 4th.
Right. I understand, but Nancy, between now and June 1st, you want us all to be trying to work on how what's our new arrangement going to be, right? We're going to be looking at the expanded district, the plan. We're going to be looking at other permutations of the commission. We're going to be looking at, there's a lot that's going to be looked at in those 7 months. If you're saying that in that 7 months, we also have to figure out how we're going to fund this thing the following year if we haven't finalized our plans, to me, that's like pie in the sky. So there's no way we're going to have that all by June 1st in place. There's no way.
Well, you have a choice of incorporating whatever you've learned in the 7 months that you've been looking at it and analyzing it. Mm-hmm. Or you can renew what we have.
So again, I go back to, you want to date, basically, I just want to be clear what I'm presenting to my board. I don't want to misrepresent the town's position. Okay, because I would like to move ahead with this, what I thought was a simple funding resolution, and move on to the bigger work, yes. The town would prefer that everything highlighted here be removed, correct?
Yeah.
Oh,
And that,
you have to answer that. I wasn't sitting in on those meetings, so.
and what would be the, would there be another additional sentence that the town would like added in?
I think that would have to be the June 1st date.
So June
The
1st.
determination of how to move forward would be June 1st.
So we have to have a determination on an alternate agreement for January 1, 2023 by June 1st, 2022. And that's
what they were
period, end of
interested in.
sentence. There's nothing beyond that. There's no what happens if we don't have one or any, you don't want to mention that at all.
Well, Jim had the idea that you have a 7-month cancellation. Change the cancellation to 7 months.
That's what I've been saying, but basically, if you change September 1 to June 1 and you change the cancellation to 7 months. Now, we've got a date upon which we review where we're at. If we're not ready yet for the next year, we either roll it over or we cancel and revise. I just think it's irresponsible to have a funding agreement that doesn't have any language dealing with what if we don't come to an agreement by June 1st for the next year. How are we funding this operation? That's all. And to just,
and I don't feel like it's irresponsible because the discussion of funding this has been that is something we've been discussing for 1.5 years. And yes, and we haven't had a proper agreement on it. And we're, the current arrangement isn't accounted for either in what we currently have. That's why we're creating this resolution. But we have all been operating, of course, upon good faith of trying to make it acceptable to both the town and the village, and of course, to pick up the garbage.
right, but you're saying that we're going to work, if by June 1st, we don't have I'm trying to really get at I'm not understanding a certain part of the argument coming from you. And I want to understand it honestly. If we don't come to by June 1st, we don't yet have an alternate arrangement really firmly agreed upon, or we think we know where we're going, but we know we're not going to have it ready for June 1st, 2023. What do we do for 2023, Nancy, to fund the commission? What arrangement do we make to fund the commission? Are you saying at that point we come to an agreement? We create a new interim arrangement for the next year?
Yeah.
Okay, so why can't we just state in this that we will either make a new interim arrangement or roll it over so that that process is actually in here in writing?
I think we could do that. That there would be a new interim agreement.
We have, or we can continue with the one that
told me that they do not want to roll over this agreement, that there has to be a new review.
So you're,
yeah.
Okay.
And we're trying to draft language now to express what I understood their thinking. But I can tell you that whatever language we come up with will be, reviewed word by word to understand what it means. And I can't promise that everyone's going to say, this is exactly what I wanted it to. This says exactly what I meant. I mean, that's the problem with this process. We're not doing it, together as two boards. So I can bring that back to them. I can tell you they didn't want to automatic rollover. They wanted the date to be June 1st. they wanted to, put a fire under both boards and the commission to say, we got to review how this is going to move forward.
You know, a rollover is not an automatic rollover if you have the opportunity to say, I don't want a rollover, I want a new revision. It makes me, I don't know if their objection is that they think having any opportunity to just say, you know what, things are moving along, but we're not quite ready. Let's just take the easy path and roll this over. They don't want to have that as even an option. They want, if we don't come to an agreement by June 1st, they want to say,
No, I think they want to be able to come to the table and say just that. If things are moving in the right direction, there is a good momentum. It seems like we're coming to a resolution. We're not there yet. Let's roll this over for one more year.
okay, that's what this,
That built in.
that's what this says, but that's okay. I mean, I know you have several attorneys on your board. This is what that says. It either rolls over or you cancel it and make it a revision. I mean, it can be, I get the, you want to basically say, take out what's highlighted in yellow. And you want to put a sentence that says, by June 1st, we will review where we're at. Is there anything? That's it then. By June 1st, the town and village will review the status of the review, to use.
And I think we could put in
That's it.
we have described as the possible options that, the options include moving forward with this, moving forward with the review in the direction of, whichever option we're looking at, or, multiple options, restructuring the current agreement, renewing the current agreement. Those are all the options it seems like we've discussed.
I got it. So I'm just going to present that this section is removed and a sentence is added that on or before June 1st, the town and village will discuss the status of an alternate arrangement for 2023. Because that's what I'm hearing.
I got to ask the other two. Is that what, do you think that captures what we've been discussing this whole time?
Well, unless you laid out what the alternatives are.
Steve, do you think that also captures the flexibility that we're looking for there, as well as the
Well, wait a minute.
push?
Hold on, Nancy. Before we'll discuss the status of deciding upon an alternate arrangement.
Yeah. the status of the decision-making.
Well,
Of making a decision.
A decision on an alternate arrangement for January 23.
The status of making a decision regarding, yeah.
Why don't you make it a little more positive? Why don't you add a sentence that if the parties, if the town and the village have not decided upon an alternate arrangement at that time, that they will negotiate a new interim agreement for January 1, 2023.
Which is
Make it
what
a
the
little more
last
positive.
sentence, which is what the last sentence says now. We'd have to mess with the language a little bit.
Yeah, but I'm trying to take the cancellation out of there. You know what I mean? But you're right, Jim.
Yeah, I wonder, I don't know, Nancy, you would know better. I wonder if the town board saw a draft or considered a draft with the June date in and with a 7-month cancellation, which takes you back to June.
Yeah.
I'm sorry,
just-
whether we present them at 2 alternatives.
Actually,
I don't know. I just know that they really wanted a stop date.
well, they have. You know what, Nancy? They have the stop date. The question is, if on June 1 they don't believe that progress has been made and they don't want to continue the current arrangement on January 1, 2023, then they can say, we want this, they write the cancellation notice, and then the town and village negotiate an interim agreement.
Yes.
And alternatively, the village has the same ability. I like that language.
No, I went to law school for that.
Let's just
So
leave that in there.
We know I didn't. I don't make any claims.
Sometimes do yada, yada, yada.
Yada,
Yeah.
yada, yada works too, but I'm
Uh,
partial to blah, blah, blah. But I mean, I look, here's the June 1st. The funding contributions will continue until a new arrangement is agreed upon and implemented unless either party wishes to revise the interim agreement, in which case, and then you can lay out a sentence about.
So you're saying they
We
could,
have to be in agreement and when it would need to be done by or something like that.
so I just guess, I think that they're just don't like that language shall continue until a new arrangement is agreed upon and implemented. And I've gotta, if it stays in there, then I've gotta emphasize the unless either party wishes to revise the interim agreement.
Right.
And then you also have, they may cancel the interim agreement.
Well, this would come out, this would go away. See, that would
But
go
what
away.
about, but there's going to also be the cancel, or you're not going to use.
That cancellation was not like, we're canceling, we're not in this anymore, we're not funding this service.
Right.
It said cancel the agreement, but we have to come to an agreement on a new interim arrangement, is what it said. Right? So really, the cancellation wasn't really a cancellation. The cancellation was a way to say, I don't want to roll this over. I want to negotiate a new interim agreement. That's what that language said. Maybe that it just wasn't clear to some, but that was what that meant. We're going to cancel the rollover. We're going to come to a new interim arrangement. So you don't need the cancellation
Mhm.
because this thing has to get funded somehow. The only cancellation would be, we're not going to be in the commission anymore. And that's a whole, you can't just, that may happen. I hope it does. That could happen. Let's just put it that way. Like, that is in the realm of possibility in the world, right? But that's a complicated matter.
So
It's not, right? Because there's more than, yeah.
Right, I know.
Yeah.
So, but this says that the current situation shall continue until a new arrangement is agreed upon and implemented, unless either party wishes to revise the interim agreement. And then
Right.
I have to say, and what is, in wishing to revise the interim agreement, when are they doing this and how are they doing this?
Right. That's what blah, blah, blah is.
I know, but
There would have to be a date. Well, I left it open. I'm saying there would have to be a sentence about, like, by what date do they put in place the interim agreement, and that it would be for the, for 2023.
so what
Basically,
date?
what you've said would have to happen, but I want to put it in writing. I don't want to leave a sentence hanging there with no written direction, because I don't know what's going to happen in June 1. And I don't know who's going to be driving the ship. And I want to at least lay out that we have the opportunity to roll over. We have an opportunity to revise the interim agreement. Those are our two options, because if we haven't decided upon an alternate arrangement for January 1st, by June 1, we need to know how we're going to fund 2023. We're going to need.
So then we've talked about, though, the timing for deciding where we are in the resolution process of going in a new direction, but we haven't come up with the timing or the parameters, or discuss the parameters at all, if we were going to change this interim agreement.
Except if you change the dates, you've effectively come up with the timing, because you give either party the opportunity to cancel it on June 1 or any time thereafter. Only to that extent, you've come up with a timing.
No, I think
Not
the way
here.
I just changed it,
Right. It doesn't say
I'm
that.
sorry.
the way I've just changed it, Jim, by June 1st, we have to say, have we come to an agreement on something for next year? If not, we're either going to roll this over, or one of us says, we don't want to roll it over. We want a new interim agreement for next year. So now blah, blah, blah has to be, what's the deadline for that new interim agreement? That's pretty much what's missing here. So it should be, something reasonable, August 1, something that works for the commission and the town's fiscal year.
August would be a good date. August would work. And then Nancy, if they want to, if the whole thing blows up, this resolution doesn't prohibit that from happening.
I'm sorry, Steve, say that again.
I said, the way I'm reading this is, if the town board really, or the village board, if they can't come up with this alternative by August, it doesn't prohibit the whole thing from blowing up.
Wait, what do we mean by the whole thing blowing up?
Well, if the town, let's say they can't agree upon an interim agreement by August, what do we do?
That's a good question. That's why I keep saying the interim agreement is this resolution. It's the funding for the commission until we come to an alternate arrangement. Maybe we need a definitions section, so we all know, you know what I mean? Because it goes back and it's tricky. The alternate arrangement is like the new way that we're hoping to create that will live on in infamy, right? The interim agreement is just this resolution
Right.
created to fund the commission until we come to the alternate arrangement. We have to have something in place. If we haven't come to an alternate arrangement that's going to be ready for January 1, 2023, we have to have something in place for 2023. We're going to have some type of funding agreement in place for 2023. It can either be this just rolled over, or if either one of us doesn't want to roll over, we then have to come to a new interim agreement, and it gives us 2 months to make sure that gets done.
Okay, so we're saying that if we can't come up with a permanent solution, we can come up with another 1-year interim agreement.
Right.
Structure to operate under.
Right.
It sounds like with the goal of still trying to come up with a permanent solution.
Yeah, I mean, none of that has changed. We're really just saying this is if we don't have something agreed to or ready to roll, we need to know how we're going to fund the following year. We shouldn't just leave it blank. We should at least lay out some process, right? So we can either just say, all right, we're all okay with the way this year has gone so far. Let's just roll it over and keep working. Or we can say, we want to make some changes. One of us wants to make changes, or both of us want to make changes. Now we have 2 months. We have to have an agreement by August 1st. We need to figure out how we're going to fund this thing by August 1st. Because if we don't lay something out,
I mean, I guess
and we're having a rough road, then I worry, like, well, then what happens when we get to the time when we have to put together a budget for 2023?
The question I would have with this language is whether the town board feels cornered by it, that there has to be an alternate interim agreement. And while I think it is,
how are they cornered by that? I mean,
well, I guess their question is saying unless in which case a new agreement needs to be in place. I might interpret that to read that there has to be a new interim agreement in place by August 1. If there isn't, what happens?
my question is to you, if there isn't, yes, if we don't have a new interim agreement for 2023 and we haven't come to an alternate arrangement, that's my question since the beginning of this conversation. What happens? What happens?
I don't know. I can't answer
what
that.
happens?
Right.
So so in essence, really what you're telling me without saying it is that the town wants the ability to pull out of any relationship with the village in terms of garbage collection if an alternate arrangement is not set to their liking by June 1st, is basically what you're telling me.
But it's not that, no, I think what they're saying is we should work together hard to come up with something that works for both communities by June 1st. And if we can't, there's not much chance that we're ever going to be able to.
I disagree with that. Here's my opinion. I think that they're saying if we can't figure out how to do this extended district by June 1st, then what if it's not that? What if there are lots of, right. We may get, by June 1st, we may get to the point where we've realized, okay, we're really all not in agreement on an extended district, but we are in agreement on staying together. And we've looked at these other options. There's still work to be done. It's not, I don't think June 1st, yes, hopefully by June 1st, we've really gotten someplace. Maybe we've gotten to the end. I don't know. But I'm telling you, what if we haven't? What if it's actually going along quite well? But by June 1st, we just haven't gotten to the place where we've finalized something that can be put in place for January 1. We're just going to leave it. We're just going to leave it open. Like, well, whatever. We'll figure out how to fund next year at some point, at some time. And the town doesn't want to be locked into being with us for the next year, which means to me that there's been conversations of them just pulling out. So I don't know. Listen.
Well, there definitely has been discussions that if we can't come to agreement, or if there isn't.
But that's not an instantaneous decision.
No, of course not.
Because we're joined in many ways, not the least of which is, joint ownership of property and assets. And there's a lot to be worked out there. A lot.
And they agree also. It's not something that anyone wants.
Right. So
I think if I think of it, and I have not been at the town board meetings where this has been discussed, but let me take the other side of it to say, why would it take almost 7 months to make this decision? The issues just don't seem to be that complicated, that
the only reason I say that it might take.
Why couldn't you come up with a solution?
Because we have a lot of things to do, and I have seen that deadlines and intentions to get things done by certain times, somehow often reality gets in the way. So I'm not saying that it's our intention to lollygag. I'm just saying that I think from the standpoint of the commission, which provides a service, we should have addressed the what if by June 1st, we're not there. You don't want to address it. I'm telling you, fine. I will go back to my board and tell them we're removing everything that's highlighted in yellow. And the only thing we're adding in is that we're going to have a conversation on or before June 1st about the status of our decision. And that's it. I'm going to take all that out. All of that's going to go. And I'm going to add in this sentence. And that's the end of our resolution. And that's what I'm going to present to my board, that's what the town wants. That's where they're at. And we'll see how that shakes out. I can't tell you. I have no idea. I have no idea.
I can tell you, though, that the town board is thinking that we're going to be, with all expectations, that we're going to get that's positive, that we're going to be able to say we can move on in X, Y, or Z direction, or that we need more time. I mean, there is some good faith on a part of the town board. I can tell you that.
That's great. Okay, that's great. I will pass along the town board's faith.
Okay, well,
I'm just telling you that I'm not looking at this from that perspective. I'm saying this is a commission. We're as a commission, we're having a conversation, and I'm saying we should understand that if on or before June 1st, our status of the decision is that we're nowhere, we should at least have considered how we're going to fund the following year. Especially if we're actually still working towards something, we're just not at a decision point yet. But
so why
I understand that this is where the town is, and I'll bring it to the
Lorraine
board, and that's that.
Lorraine, why don't I have a town board meeting tomorrow night? So why don't I bring them your position and talk to them about it and see where they are? Because it's a truncated conversation, it's one-sided each time. So, don't keep saying, well, fine, this is what the town board wants.
This is what I have asked you to clarify several times, what the town wants. And I have put up language that you have told me that they don't want to see.
I'm trying to clarify it.
So, okay.
Not in
So-
their brains,
so
I'm
then
not
that's-
in their hearts. So I
Right.
don't know exactly what language they're going to
Right.
take. I can only tell you that they did want a deadline for the agreement. They didn't want it to be an automatic rollover. So
Right. And it always had a deadline, and it was never an automatic rollover. But be that as it may, again, I say, I'm
Well,
sure
was it
some of them-
unrealistic
some
rollover?
of them are attorneys, and if it was a matter of changing the dates.
So why
So
don't I bring back this discussion to them and let them know what you and your board feel strongly that there should be language that addresses 2023 in the circumstance that we don't have a resolution by June 1, and ask them what they, how they feel about that, and if they could accept having language in there that addresses the options that we're talking about, either a rollover or a interim, a changed interim agreement.
So Lorraine, why don't we send this, we take out that last piece that you put on the bottom. And then Nancy, why don't you take this resolution to the board? And see what they think, and then, we can either have a commission meeting or you and Lorraine can.
Tell me which, I don't know which,
The one that's up on the screen right now. What do you think of that one?
Okay, I can certainly do that. And I will explain that it is not obviously an automatic rollover, but it gives the opportunity to do so.
we could even put in then I don't know, you'd have to take some other stuff out of there. Anyway. That's all.
Okay.
You want me to just send that to you?
Yeah.
I'm just emailing you that piece.
Just that piece. All right.
You can.
I think it's a conversation and process, and that's, the unwieldiness of the process is not easy.
Which is exactly why, while I agree that we want to move post haste, I disagree that we can assume that, you guys are all looking at my email, why that we can, that 7 months is like, a lifetime of, in order to get this done. Because a
No.
resolution to just, continue funding has taken, it's taking time. Let's just put it that way.
Right. Well, I think that it probably would make sense to have some joint meetings of the boards during this process.
Oh, this whole process is going to be joint meetings.
Because that's the only way it is, I think.
Yeah, no, this is not a commission driven scenario. This is a
Right.
joint, yeah,
That's
a
right.
joint study of what our options are and where we can go. And the commission can provide data and, necessary information that we might need along the way, right?
Right. And then if you decide, so what I will do then is I'm going to call this a draft plan, and I will submit it to the commissioners for their review. And then perhaps if you decide you want to discuss other alternatives, that there just be enough notice for us for enough notice to be able to play that all out. you know, all of its work and drafting. But so what you'll get by the end is what's called a draft plan for the extension of the town refuse district. And so tomorrow night, Nancy, we won't start any process. It'll just be because then, but you'll have to decide when you want to, if you, that's what I think I was trying to back into, Lorraine. I probably didn't do it very well, is you're going to look at this draft plan. You're going to decide whether you like it or you don't like it, or you want to change it, whatever it may be. There's an official timeline for how this all happens. And it actually starts with the town board saying, we've authorized the preparation of the plan, the map, the plan and report, which is what you'll get. And then it's the town board takes no action at that time. They then refer it to the village. The village then decides whether or not they want to hold a public hearing on the plan. Then once the public hearing is held, a period of 30 days must elapse for a permissive referendum. Then the town board must do the exact same thing, that is hold a public hearing, allow 30 days for the permissive referendum to elapse, and then you come to a final decision. So it just, you know, I wish I could say you could do this at the snap of a finger, and it's just not possible.
What about the idea, though, of presenting the plan to both boards? You know, rather than having the boards, you know, take it themselves and review it, but having a presentation to both boards at the same time, so that it's the same level of presentation and understanding.
Okay, I mean, that's certainly an idea. So why don't I do this? Let me get to both of you, and I'll actually send it to Jim as well, the draft plan, so that you see what a plan looks like for the expansion of a district, and then decide whether you think that provides all the data, at least on that alternative. You could, you know, the other thing is you could do things in parallel too. I mean, you could decide to hold the public hearings. I want to confirm this with Doug Goodfriend, but you could decide, I think, to hold the public hearings, let the 30 days elapse, the two communities doing that. Then I don't know that there's a timeline for a, quote, a final decision. You know, like for instance, if you finish the public hearing process by the end of March, could the
Steve,
decision
I
not
think
be
you're
made?
way ahead of us. You're
Okay.
way ahead of us. Lorraine is talking, you know, her board has not even, you know,
Okay.
they look at this plan and sounds like tear it apart. So
Well,
I think, you know, let's just present it and see how
Okay.
people respond.
Okay. All right.
And maybe our board will tear it apart too. I don't know. It's, you know, it's not a done deal that we're going to move forward and try and enact it.
Right.
Okay.
You
But
guys
just
know that we're not on TV anymore.
Oh,
Maybe we're still streaming, but I think that we got a message that they moved on to their next program.
oh.
Because guys, we've been at this for 2 hours.
Okay. All right. Okay. Let me get you the plan.
All
I
right,
also
and-
have for you next week a draft of the budget. I'm going to do a first draft of the commission budget for next year, and you both have received copies of the audit report for 2020.
As of when? Today?
2020 audit. I had it delivered to Village Hall yesterday, Lorraine. I
Oh,
don't
hand delivered. Okay. All right.
but down there. If you didn't get it, let me know.
I'll go look for it now. Thank you. It's probably in my folder. I just haven't looked yet.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm going to talk with my town board about this tomorrow night. And then I guess my question is, should we schedule a meeting to follow up from that feedback? It seems good.
Yeah, hold on. Tomorrow night is your board meeting on the 6th.
Yeah.
Um, Yeah, if we can keep it brief, we can do maybe something on Tuesday, the 12th. That way it's before my next meeting, my meeting on the 18th. So I'll know what I'm bringing, what message I'm bringing to them.
If you need me for that, folks, I'm not available in the morning that day. Not available in the morning.
We have a TVS meeting that day, Lorraine,
Oh, we do? I don't have it in my calendar. Where is it?
at the town.
Okay. So why don't we just do it after the TVS meeting?
I have a 2 o'clock meeting after.
Oh, well,
For it.
How about just before?
How about 11? Oh, but Jim said he's not available.
Yeah, I don't know if you need me for it, but if you do, I'm sorry.
so we have TVS at noon on the 12th. And you have a meeting at 2 o'clock?
Yes.
When will you free up later in the day? If any, if at all?
3:30, 3:30?
3:30 on Tuesday, the 12th? Does that work for everybody?
Yes,
It works for me. Okay. All right. Let's do that then.
Steve, could you notice that, please?
I will get all the notices and everything else out. Are we doing Zoom or are we doing live?
I could do either.
Either's fine. I did virtual because I was supposed to be interviewing someone, but that was at 10 o'clock and that got canceled late last night. So it was a good thing since we're still here. So the 12th at 3:30 and it'll be live.
All right. You want to do it up here at the town office or you want to do it in the village? Where do you want to? What's your preference there, everybody?
Well, I'll have already been over to the town that day.
All right, so we'll come over there.
We can do it here.
Okay.
All right.
Okay, I will get the notice out.
Super.
Okay.
All right.
No
Thanks.
other-
Great,
Just
thanks.
very, very quickly, we haven't resolved. We're still accumulating tonnage tickets from the material that went to places other than the county facilities. So I hope to have those numbers in a few weeks, but everybody is still, licking their wounds, I think, from all this
Steve,
collection and their
Our
tickets.
intention, clarify, I mean, or confirm, I assume our intention is to put in a FEMA claim for any of the overtime related to the storm cleanup?
So what we're trying to resolve, yeah, of course. I mean,
Yeah.
what we're trying to resolve is whether one, the commission has the ability to submit to FEMA, or
Right,
whether it would come under the umbrella of the town.
right.
And so
Or
Meredith,
why would it come under the umbrella, you mean of the town and the village separately? Or,
Well,
or under the commission?
come under the village, it should go one way or the other. We shouldn't split it up. So, I mean, in theory, if you want to submit the commission's data as part of your FEMA application for storm damage, we could do that too. But
Right,
I don't know that you had as much as the town did. So the application process is probably going to be a little more comprehensive.
what if it just, what would happen if it went through the town? Then there would be some pass through to the village?
Correct. Well, no, it'd be passed through to the commission.
The entire thing would pass back through to the commission?
Right. And then
Whatever was gotten from FEMA for that would go straight back to the commission.
No, except for what was happening during part of this process was the county was trying to make arrangements. The town and the village were trying to make arrangements. So for instance, the other day, we took, and Justin and I have already passed the tickets back and forth. A town truck went to Elmsford. When the ticket came out of the off the scale, it said Village of Larchmont on it. So the ticket went to Justin. I knew it had gone to Justin. Justin sent it to me, and I said, okay, I'm going to lump that under. We were going to lump all the debris disposal under the commission. And then if there has to be pass through back to either the town or the village, we'll just have to figure that out. But
When you
that's-
say a town truck, did you mean a town garbage truck or a town
Yes.
dump truck?
And when
Okay,
the
right,
town instructed us to
Yeah.
go to Elmsford, we went
right,
to
right, yeah,
Yonkers. We went to Elmsford. When the driver going back over the scale, the ticket came out and said Village of Larchmont. They said they couldn't change it because the only account they had up there was for the village, not the town. So I
okay,
said,
got it.
that's-
And this was a town truck driven by a town employee, not a commissioner.
Correct.
Okay, I understand, yeah.
Yeah. So that's why I'm saying it's a little complicated right now. The county, I've been on the phone with the county. They're trying to reconcile. And then I'll let you know at the next meeting how we're going to do the final submission.
All right,
Okay.
all right, yep. Because that's one more thing that has to get done in the next 7 months. Just
Right.
saying, 7 months is not what you think it is. We all know that. All right,
Anyway.
thank you.
All right, everybody.
All
Thanks.
right,
Bye.
thanks.
Take
Bye.
care. Take care, everybody.